Are you planning to run the Goggins challenge, the 4x4x48? If so, this video is for you. I'm an experienced ultra runner and I'm going to provide you tips to help you be successful in the Goggins challenge. These tips will be helpful whether you're an experienced runner or simply someone who wants to work on themselves. And
6 times 3. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. Hurry up. 8, 18. Oh! 2 minutes, you don't make it, you do it again! Have you been tested this hard ever in your life?
Never.
Winning here is a conscious decision. Make up your mind whether you want to pass or choose to fail. You just prove to your bodies, through your mind, that you can push yourself further than you thought possible.
Hi, my name is Simon. I'm an ultra runner. I've been racing 100 miler every month for more than 2 years now, including some of the hardest race, Badwater, Ouray, Leadville, Hurt 100. And today I want to help you with the Goggins challenge. Now, why am I running the Goggins challenge? It's much less than 100 miles. It should be easy for me, right? Well, I feel that I've become a little bit complacent when it comes to my training. I just go from racing one race, then I need to heal, then a little bit of training, then I taper, then next race. And I want to kind of steer out of that and stop finding excuses and work on improving my running. But also I just want to create variety on this channel, and I know that a lot of you are thinking about doing the challenge, and I want to help you be successful. I want to help you in your training and in your running journey. Because this is what the channel is all about. It's about inspiring you in your journey, and it's about providing you tips to be successful. So what's the Goggins challenge, the 4x4x48? Well, first, who's Goggins? Goggins is David Goggins. He's a motivational speaker, an ex-Navy SEAL. He wrote a couple of books. One is Can't Hurt Me, the other one is Never Finished. These books, they have inspired millions of people. For myself, reading it, I think there's some great things that he's saying, and there are other things, especially ways of training, that can be dangerous, that can lead to injury, and that you need to be careful. So the way I see it is you take the good, the inspiration, and then everything else. You need to be careful about injuries because running is a rough sport and you don't want to be injured. The guy goes into rhabdo after some of the race. That's definitely not something you should do. You could damage your kidney forever. You could die from that. And honestly, that's just, yeah. So what about the challenge itself, the Goggins challenge, the 4x4x48? Well, it's the same thing. I think it's a great tool to be motivated, to push your limit, to challenge yourself, which are all great. But there's also a risk of injuries. So the name is a little confusing. 4x4x48. So you run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. But if running is not something that you can do, what he's proposing is doing something maybe that will take you 40-45 minutes, maybe cycling, maybe swimming. But typically this challenge is all about running, and I think personally that running that amount over such a short period of time is actually much harder than if you were cycling. And the reason for that is that running 4 miles is not necessarily that hard, but then you only have 3 hours to rest, and then you do it again and again and again. And what's going to happen is, yes, your muscle will get tired, but more importantly, it's a high impact on your joints. And the more you're tired and the more your muscles are tired, the more it's going to hit your joints, and that's where injuries will happen. So if you do it, you might feel pain in your knees, you might feel pain in your ankle, you might feel pain in your hips, hip flexor, a lot of tendons or ligaments. It takes longer to heal these, so you got to watch out for that. And the best way to prepare for that is if you already have a good running basis, so if you've trained appropriately for it.
How hard is the Goggins challenge?
Now, from my experience, when it comes to how difficult it is physically, I think it's fairly similar to running a 50K. So the way I would prepare for the Goggins challenge is as if I would be training for a 50K. Mileage-wise, it's closer to a 48 miles, but hey, you do it over 2 days. And here's the trick though. Personally, if I had the choice between racing a 50 miler or doing the Goggins challenge, I would actually do the 50 miler. Even though it's physically harder, I would much rather start Saturday morning, be done in the evening, and then I can sleep, and then I can heal, and then I have the rest of my weekend. Because the Goggins challenge is not challenging only because of the running, It's difficult because of all the organization, but importantly the mental toughness that you need to develop to be successful. Because it's not that easy to wake up in the middle of the night to go for a 4-mile run. I would much rather run 8 miles and skip the one in the middle of the night, but that's not the challenge. The challenge is about making no excuse, and that's a key thing here, is that you have to make no excuse. You just get it done no matter what, no matter the pain, no matter how inconvenient, no matter how tired you are. You just do it. You don't fall into the pattern of comfort, you fall into the pattern of just getting things done.
How to train for the David Goggins challenge, the 4x4x48.
Being able to run 4 miles is not enough. You need to be well trained, and if you need tips on how to prepare for the equivalent of a 50K, I post a video about that, so that will help you gauge a little bit what's your level and if you should plan to do it maybe in a couple of months rather than doing it today. Because the whole point of doing the challenge is to work on yourself, is to unlocking your potential, and what that means is not taking shortcut. And what that means is that sometimes you have to prepare for it. You have to put yourself in a situation where you can be successful, and that means training for it. Doing it untrained, getting injured, first you're setting yourself up for failure, but more importantly, you're missing the point of working on yourself and reaching your full potential. That training block that you do before the challenge is just as important, if not even more important than the challenge itself, is getting ready for it, doing in the work, not just during the 48 hours, but for the months that will be before that. And importantly, that you keep these good habits and that you continue working on yourself after the challenge. So that's enough talking. Let's get out there, let's get the challenge done, and I'll provide you tips every 4 miles that I run, setting yourself up for success.
All right, we're officially doing the Goggins challenge. This is the first run. Tip number 1 is that you gotta plan ahead, because the big question is always, when should you start? What time of the day makes the most sense? Which day makes the most sense? And you have to ask yourself, when do you have time? Having done it before, I feel that for me 3, 7, 11 is the perfect time. The challenge though, and that's why I also picked the weekend, is that I gotta work during the day. That matches pretty well with the time I have to commute to and from work at 7 in the morning and 7 in the evenings. I also feel that going for a run at 11 at night for me is not such a big deal. I'll go to bed at midnight, and quite frankly, when I put these movies together, that's kind of my calendar anyway. I have to find that time late in the evening. And I think a big lesson of this challenge is that you have more time than you realize, and it's about making the right decision. So of course you have priorities that are higher than running, but if you really gotta make time, you will find time. And that's something you need to carry on in your training, in your day-to-day life. Don't make excuse. Don't just watch TV and not train. Make the time for what is important. And your health and your fitness is important. All right, done. Taking it slow to make sure I have energy until the end of the challenge. It's not a race. About to do run number 2. And I'm gonna meet Nora at the gym on a treadmill for this one. No filming in there, sorry about that. One of the tips though is that for everyone you should think about maybe someone special or something you're grateful for. You can almost dedicate every single run for that person or that thing. So for example, this one I'll be thinking about Nora, and there's no way I'm gonna skip my Nora run. So now we're gonna eat, and the night will come soon, and that's where it becomes a little harder. Third run. It's already evening or night. That's where it's becoming a little bit more mental. I think the next tip is that very quickly you'll realize one thing, and it's that if you do 4 miles every 4 hours, that comes very, very quickly. That leaves you very little time to rest, and that time is very precious. So what you should really do is prepare everything in advance, so that as soon as you're done running, especially now, as soon as I'm done, I eat a little bit and then I can sleep. So you prepare in advance, for example, all of the alarm clock. I have meal prep, so I know what I'm gonna eat as soon as I'm done, because it comes very quickly. Your next run always comes quicker and quicker. All right, and I might not always say it for the next few ones, but this run, I'm thinking a lot about my sister. I think family is something that is really important, and you know, sometimes you have disagreement, I'm sure, but my sister is my sister, and I love her no matter what. And no matter what, I'll be there for my sister, and I know that she's there for me. Family is something that is really important, and I think a relationship that you have with your family is something that you should cherish.
3 a.m. is the hardest one. It's the one you feel, this is so dumb.
One tip that you might feel is almost silly, it was useless, but I think it's pretty important. You know better where you live, and you have to wonder, is it safe? Recently there was another sad news about the runner. I think it was in Georgia, I'm not sure, but the lady runner that was killed on the run. It's not fun to talk about these things, but I think we have to be careful and we have to be aware. Is it safe? Should you run with someone else? Should you do the treadmill instead? But even if we don't think about an extreme like that, it's the middle of the night, Friday night and Saturday night. Look, it's the time of the day, it's the time of the week where people come out of bars. They might not drive safe. You should also make sure that if you're on the side of the road, you're very visible, you have some lights, something. For me, for example, the road that I pick to run, I'm careful to be sure that there's always a clear sidewalk. It's so quiet right now. It's quite interesting. Everyone is sleeping. Right, my 3 a.m. run is almost done, and I think it's by far the hardest. But one thing that keeps me driving is that the 3 a.m. one is the one where once I'm done, I can go in our bed instead of the couch, so that I have something to look forward to. And also, having done the 3 a.m. one, I feel pretty accomplished, and I feel that the rest of the challenge is easier. Good morning, run number 5. Another tip is that one of the hardest thing, I think, at least in my mind, is the night. It's waking up, so you have to know yourself. Is there any risk that you might turn off the alarm or something like that, and then just act accordingly? So it can be like making sure that the alarm is not right next to your bed, so you have to stand up, or setting another alarm. Doing run number 6. Probably the easiest one, middle of the day. I'm not so tired yet, and we're halfway there. Ultimately, the Goggins challenge is a long distance running challenge. How to run long without getting tired. A lot of the same principle apply here. You need to take care of yourself. Take rest when you can. Eat well. Train your mental toughness. I even have a full video on mental toughness. And this is particularly relevant for the Goggins challenge. You have to have a strong why. You have a reason to get outdoor every 4 hours, to push regardless of everything, because at first it's easy, but these runs, they come quickly, and you'll feel pain and you'll feel discomfort, and you'll ask yourself why you're doing that. Well, you better have a good reason to get out of bed at 3 a.m. Run number 7, we're officially halfway there, and we have Nora with us. A tip here is that it's easier to give up when it's just yourself, but if you have other people holding you accountable, that's gonna be very helpful. So obviously if you can run with someone, that's great, but even just talking with people, letting them know what you're gonna do. If you don't want to disappoint people because you told them that you would do that, hey, high five. Good job. All right, we're out doing the 8-1. Nora's with me again right now. This one is not the hardest, but pretty soon it's gonna get real tough. That's where the challenge is at, the second night. So little tips when you're choosing your route. I think it's good to switch it up as much as possible. It just keeps it a little bit more interesting. At the same time, keep it simple. Personally, I don't want to have to drive, but then I go in random direction. And if you have a GPS watch or even just your phone with an app like Strava, you can check the mileage. And as soon as you hit 2, you turn around. If you can pick a flat route, that'd be great, but where I live, that's basically impossible. So most of my run will have 300-400 feet of gain, which is fine, but that's gotta make a difference eventually. Who's gonna carry the boat? I'm carrying the boat. Well, I mean, I left it home, but usually I carry the boat.
All right, back from number 8 of the Goggins challenge. The end is near, but now it's gonna be the night, and that's gonna be the hardest.
All right, we're doing the night run. Gotta admit, I'm a little tired, but also feeling pretty good knowing that this is the second to last one at night. I can do this, I got this. I think one of the challenges that you shouldn't underestimate the challenges of doing this. Running 100 miles might not sound like much, and then you just do it again and you do it again. So it's easy to think that it's gonna be easy, but your body is not gonna be healed from the last run, and the fatigue will accumulate. You gotta respect the challenge that you have ahead, and you have to prepare and act accordingly. It's basically dead in the street. But that's part of the point, right? The point is to push yourself. When everyone else is sleeping, you're putting in the work. You gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta keep pushing. And sometimes walking is the only thing you can do. Well, I guess that's what you gotta do. And you have to have this mindset of no matter what, I will do it. Well, that's an interesting twist. You probably don't see it, but it went from being a little misty to a little rainy. Well, sometimes when something challenging comes along, you have to steer right in through it, embrace the suck, and see that as an opportunity to show that you can do it. It's not just that a tiny bitsy of rain is not gonna stop you. But I guess a tip here would be to look at the weather forecast and dress accordingly.
Cheers. All right, 3 a.m., 4 miles. It's the last time I do that in the middle of the night. Let's go. Garden challenge is almost done. Of course, now it's raining. Yay. But I guess that just makes it more interesting, so let's go.
Last time at night, I'm definitely feeling it, and it's normal. It's normal that the accumulated fatigue will get to you. I think the tip that came to mind for this time is that you have to find yourself a nice routine, and you become very efficient at it. As soon as I'm done, I'll drink something. I'll eat a little something that I've already prepared, and then I'll change, shower as needed, and I line up my clothes for next time. I have a nice dinner for after the challenge is done, something that I can look forward to, because you're gonna get pretty hungry doing that. You're burning a lot of calories. Done with the last night run. Feeling better now than I did at the beginning of the run, and now I know everything that is left is fairly easy. Pretty grateful that I'm already here, but physically Yeah, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it in my ankles. I'll be fine. But it just goes to show that having a cycle like that where you just don't have time to heal, it's gonna bang you up, even if you're well trained. So if you're not trained, it's gonna be problematic, because I think I would feel better right now if I had run 50 miles straight. So here we go. But let's go to bed. Now it's a nice time where I can join Nora. Cheers. Still a little wet, a little cold, but nothing too bad. 11 run means we already have 40 miles in and my body is feeling it, but we're almost done. The tips that comes to mind right now, it's first you gotta break it down and not think about the whole challenge. You just go one run at a time, and at first it's really about focusing about what you've done so far. You've done 3 of them or whatever it is, you're moving forward. But when you're close to the end, I like to think more about what's left and realize that what's left is almost nothing. Right now I only have like what, 8 miles to go. That's nothing. And basically celebrating the victories, the small victories that you've achieved, until you actually achieve your big goal. You're not my supervisor. Run number 12, technically that's the last one. And my last tip here, you can learn a lot from this challenge, things that you will be able to apply in your day-to-day life. You know, doing always more, pushing through adversity, being focused, being organized. And I think as much as possible, you should grow from that experience, not just because you ran 12 times 4 miles, but because you've built discipline that can help you be successful in whatever you do in the future. I don't know for you, but I'm definitely feeling it after doing that, even if I run much more in race. And I'll need a fair amount of rest as I'm racing next weekend. I'm doing Antelope Canyon 100 mile. Nora's doing the 50 and Fanny is doing the 50. It's gonna be fun, but it's also a very challenging race. So I need to be well rested. And hey, like, we just ran 52 miles, which is not nothing. And it's not like I would race a 50 miler 1 week after racing a 100 miler. That would be kind of stupid.
Finally, the last run of the Goggins challenge. This one is optional, but we're not gonna cut corners, so let's go.
The last tip, the last bit of wisdom is that you should never aim to do the bare minimum. If you do always the bare minimum, you're always gonna be mediocre. If you want to achieve great things, you always have to work harder, push harder, do a little bit more. Don't take the shortcuts. Not gonna lie, it's kind of bittersweet to know I'm almost done. It was almost a habit at this point, but I am looking forward to just resting.
All right, we're officially done with the Goggins challenge. It went well, but now I need to rest. I'm gonna take a shower, relax, eat, sleep. That was fun. That was a good challenge. That was fun to try it out.
I'm very glad I did it. I'm very proud I did it. Yes, it's not as physically challenging as when I run 100 mile, but it wasn't easy to wake up in the middle of the night. I was really thinking, should I really do that? What's the point? And the point was to challenge myself. The point was to push my own limit. The point was to get outside of my comfort zone. And it's normal that we all seek comfort to some extent. I want to sleep the full night, and that's what I'm gonna do tonight. But sometimes you gotta push, because if you want to grow in life, you gotta push your limit. You gotta challenge yourself. You shouldn't fall in a pattern of comfort. You shouldn't fall in the pattern of doing the bare minimum all the time. You need to reach out for more. You need to push your limit. You need to challenge yourself. You need to do more, and that's how you're gonna grow. And just a brief recap on the tips. So first is you gotta come in prepared. You don't want to come in undertrained. So train for it. It's gonna take a few months, but you gotta be prepared, and that's a big part of becoming a better version of you, is putting in the works the months before the challenge itself. For the challenge, plan it ahead of time. When are you gonna run? Where are you gonna run? Plan your meals, plan what you're gonna wear, because when you're in it, you want to have as much time as possible to rest. You want to have as much time as possible to do other things, because it's extremely time confusing, and very quickly you'll realize that, hey, a run every 4 hours comes very quickly. Get everything ready ahead of time so that you only have one thing to think about, is get outdoor, start running, don't stop. As always, thanks for watching. Please leave a thumbs up if that was helpful. In the comments below, I'm curious, are you planning to run it, or have you run it before, and do you have any tips for other people?